Hey everyone, Margarita here. This is part 2 of my true life story of me surviving severe carbon monoxide poisoning. And there's so much that I want to talk about that I want to make the intro at least 2 parts because there's so much information that I can't even squeeze it all into one 15-minute intro video. So I do want to continue on and mention that everything I'm saying here, these are all my true life events. I know my son and I now live modified lives due to our injuries. We are permanently injured. There are several very large issues still going on currently from the initial injury and all the subsequent problems my mother has caused and the crimes her and other agencies have committed against me since then. It has all snowballed into an extreme mess where my life is blown into smithereens. I'm now under Chapter 13 bankruptcy. I did have to pay, I spent about 165 grand so far out of pocket on our treatments to get us to where we are today. And we are still in need of about another 100 grand in treatment. And overall, we are going to still need maintenance treatments for life, which I think we could probably get away with maybe doing monthly at some point once we've had enough of the initial treatment, because we're still treating the initial medical emergency, the initial overload. And it's a little different for my son because he was formed in utero that way. So I can't seem to find another case like ours that someone was pregnant and getting exposed that much and then given birth while suffering from it and not given oxygen. I could not find another case study like that. So I'm not aware of anybody else who has given birth while suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning. So I will get into all of that. I do want to mention, though, that if I was not the person that I was, and if I did not have access to the type of money that I had made, if I had not worked the way I did all those years prior to becoming injured, and if I did not have access to the type of money that I make, I've been self-employed 100% since 2012. So this restaurant that I went to work at the last 10 weeks of pregnancy, I was only supposed to be there those 10 weeks. It was temporary. I was just supplementing a small portion of my income, so I wasn't sitting home staring at the wall. And I'd worked in restaurants all those years, so I never thought anything of it. I never had a restaurant with a problem with the carbon monoxide and a ventilation system issue. So I'll get more into all that because I had to learn quite a bit about ventilation systems, how they work, the different sources of carbon monoxide. I'm pretty much a carbon monoxide expert at this point. And I am the one that has the proper information, and that's how we are still alive as well. So if I was not the intelligent person that I actually am, if I did not have my life's work behind me, and if I was not still already 100% self-employed, it wouldn't have been possible for me to do what I was doing. I did attempt to work a little bit self-employed because I did have to maintain the bills and come up with the funds to pay for treatment. Even though my private insurance did end up covering a significant portion as well for my portion, not my son's. But anybody else that would have been in our predicament wouldn't have survived this. So, there is a lot that has happened. I'm going to go through the different stages of what I went through, the extreme part, because I have re-injuries. I have re-injuries and re-exposures. They're two different things. The re-exposures happen more often than re-injuries. I try not to get re-injured, but sometimes there's nothing I can do about it because the rest of the world is ignorant to my condition and the fragility of my brain and my system. So I will get more into those, but those are problems. And then I will kind of talk about, where I've been with it. There's ups and downs along the way, depending on if you're continuing to maintain treatment or if you're not. So there's several issues here. And where we are currently and what's needed going forward. I will get into all of this. I do want to mention that I've never had a proper support system. I've never had one. So all during my injury, I did not have anyone to advocate for me. I did not have a support system whatsoever. I was living in nothing but extreme screaming, chaos, conflict, everybody within my household, because I was the one running everything, providing everything, and building for everybody. And no one was comprehending what was going on because of all these delusions being passed around. And my household was in extreme chaos with all that screaming when I could not have sound, which was prompting all of these 911 calls along the way as well. And I'll get more into that too. I literally was living in hell and I didn't know if it was ever going to stop. Extreme brain swelling, extreme shock coming from every nerve, just shooting through my entire brain. Every little sound, even the sound of my own voice was doing this. Every little word. And at the same time, I was dealing with a toddler at this time who was also suffering from the same thing. And he also had extreme behavioral issues due to the injury to the brain and the carbon monoxide poisoning. So it made it extremely intolerable. Literally living in hell, not knowing if this was ever going to stop. It went on in that manner for almost 5 years before we had crossed the first threshold. It was a little bit before he had turned 5 years old when we finally crossed the first threshold to where it wasn't extreme like that anymore. So prior to all of this, I did maintain contact with my dad. My parents are still married. I don't have siblings, like I said. But when I got my first home at 18, I kept a separate relationship with my dad, and my dad would come to my houses, because now I'm on my fourth house, that I'm 41. So I've lived in a couple different houses. So my dad maintained a relationship with me and my children separately. He would come to my homes, and my mother was never allowed in my homes. And I'm sure like nobody actually knows that, because all they have is delusions and false information out there, all the family members, everybody. So I did that, and that's how we went about our lives. And it is still that way, or it was. My dad had a very bad injury 2 years ago, and I'll get more into that. His life is now on the line due to my mother's ongoing crimes as well. But that really pissed her off, and she was very jealous and envious of me from the time I was born, which is still a current problem today. That's why all of these crimes have occurred, why this is all still going on. So my dad was always allowed at my home. There wasn't directly a problem with him, but what the problem that would happen is they would be home alone together. My mother would be repeating delusions to him over and over and over, which she also did to my older children. And she does this to family members, friends, whoever. She just repeats delusions. She doesn't even have to be directly talking to you. She just repeats delusions about me in the background, and it gets repeated and pounded into their heads, and they're brainwashed to a certain degree, each one of them. So then my dad would come over repeating the delusions at times and causing some chaos within my house, because once my injury became extreme, she used that to get those around me to be acting that way when I was in a fight for my life and should have been in a hospital bed, breathing nothing but oxygen in a sterile environment, doing daily hyperbaric treatments until my system and my brain were repaired. It is extremely hard to treat that severe of a carbon monoxide poisoning, especially with the brain injuries. It is extremely hard to treat this as an outpatient situation, because it is not at all an outpatient situation. And that's what I was being forced to do. So that made it even harder, everything that was going on. Now, prior to that, I was very healthy. I did not need a proper support system. I've always been my own support system, and because I know I can count on myself. I've never gotten any assistance. I haven't gotten any payments from anybody, no Social Security, no child support, no compensation from the people who've caused my injury. And that case is just now going to court it's been about almost 7 years since it became known, and 9 since I stepped foot in that building. So there's numerous problems here because I haven't received anything from anyone, and I'm owed quite a bit of money from several different directions. And I stay so messed up with each re-injury, and people are responsible that need to be sued, that I stay so messed up without someone to advocate for me that I can't ever even pursue a lawsuit, because the time period passes before I ever am able to address it, because of the result of how I have to live my life due to my injuries, how extreme each re-injury is, the chaos that I'm already living in and dealing with due to the long-term effects of the injury and the ongoing injury. It's very hard because I have 2 to 4 times more than I can handle on my plate, and it's been that way since the day I became injured. So if you're the main provider of your household and you are the one doing everything, and your life comes to an abrupt halt, it changes everything, because there's nothing you can do about it. And I really did. I did well for myself. I got by those 20 years doing things the way I did with the few people that I did have. It's not a proper support system, but I do have some people kind of like at a distance. I did at that time. I had a couple different sets of people, and I made it work. It worked. Now today I'm in a different place, and also my older 2 kids are now adults. There's still a problem. And I believe these videos are going to help clear up a lot of this mess, this chaos, these lies, these delusions. There's a lot of crimes. There are so many crimes. I really need somebody to be looking into this. I have names. I have first and last names. I have agencies. I will be naming people off here. First and last names. People that I've encountered, especially the ones who did some of the most damage. I will be exposing quite a few people and quite a few agencies. And I have no intention on backing down. So stay tuned because this gets very, very interesting. Actually, somebody should be making a movie out of what I'm, once I get these videos out and my stories told, because it's going to take hundreds, if not thousands of videos to tell it all. But somebody does need to make this into a movie because this is not something anybody else in the world ever experiences. And I do want to mention again, when I say my mother, I do not mean a normal person who loves their child and has done right by their child and grandchildren. This woman is a deranged lunatic in the background, still committing crimes as we speak. So do not confuse and do not give her credit where credit is not due, because that's how she's able to gain control over the false narrative, by telling people she's my mother. They immediately believe her because they're thinking of their own mother. I just had to state that again because everybody seems to have a problem with that. Everything I have a lot of proof. I've been piecing these crimes together, paperwork wise. I do have quite a bit of proof, and I can prove quite a bit of what I'm saying. Most of it, actually. And let me just go through here and maybe mention some of the other subjects I'm going to be talking about. I do also want to mention I did not have speech therapy at any point during this, and I was not ever properly treated. And again, I am doing what I can, and I do use some homeopathic methods, but with the amount of brain injuries that I had and the amount of carbon monoxide that was lodged in my brain, I also needed speech therapy because I had to relearn how to talk. And I did it on my own while the carbon monoxide was being removed from my brain and my system every day, and the brain tissue was very, very slowly repairing, and those knots of carbon monoxide up in my head were slowly getting removed, and I had to do this every day for years before this even got removed. But that's what was removing it, so that those parts of the brain that were not working properly, like the delivery of speech and all that information and how to talk and string sentences together, that all started to come back a little bit naturally as my brain tissue was repairing and the carbon monoxide was being removed from my brain, because there was knots of it and there was inches of space between my brain and my skull. So there was no speech therapy. I had to relearn on my own, and I'm sorry about the delivery of my information. Sometimes it's going to come out faster or slower. It's going to be delivered at different speeds based on how many symptoms I experience the day I'm filming. Like I said, my symptoms are ongoing. They never stop. So I do have to juggle them throughout each day, and I have to do certain things to even be able to try to function in a day. And sometimes I'm not able to. So you will notice the way I look, the way I'm delivering the information, the speeds at which I'm talking, the use of words or the improper use of words. And you're going to pick up on, what I'm talking about and how injured I actually am. Because over the course of you watching me deliver the information and watching my videos, you'll start to see the ups and downs and what I go through. And I have filmed a couple of videos where I was very, very unwell, because usually I don't film them that way and it's hard to. But I think with me releasing the videos in that manner and not making cuts and editing the videos, it will show my injury. The proof is watching me. Watch me talk and deliver what I'm saying and what I'm saying I've been through. You will see, especially when I'm having re-exposures and I'm looking different and talking different, and it may look like I'm on drugs sometimes, and the reality is I'm not. It's the injury itself and the effects. So I do believe, like, you will, anybody watching this over time will see exactly what I'm talking about. This is not something that can be made up. You cannot make up how I'm looking, feeling, talking, delivering information. But if you can't handle like my use of words and the way I'm delivering the information, then please don't watch my channel. I don't need your rude comments. I don't need anyone saying, oh, you need to go do this, or you need to stop saying this less, or I didn't have speech therapy. I don't have a proper support system. I'm still in need of proper treatment. I don't have help. So kick rocks if you cannot handle the way I'm talking. I don't need any more rude people in my life after everything that I've been through, or rude comments on my channel. But it's at about 15 minutes, so I will be back with another one. Thanks. Bye.